Welcome to Stop My Crisis with Vivian Gaspar, and I'm your host, Vivian Gaspar. I'm here with Jeff Greenberg. He has been a New Jersey mortgage originator for 29 years and has helped over 2,100 homeowners with their properties, and especially specializing in distressed homeowner rescues. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you, Vivian.
And I love how you also complement my area of expertise, but not quite the same. A lot of people get what we do confused. I've helped people in foreclosure with the HAMP program. HAMP is the Home Affordability Mortgage Modification Protection Act, and you're the HARP man.
Right.
So tell me, what does HARP mean?
HARP very simply means the Home Affordability Refinance Program that the federal government set up a number of years ago to help homeowners who normally would be able to refinance their mortgage, but the only reason they can't is because of the change in the market conditions where now their mortgages are considered underwater, whereby the house is worth less than what the current balance is of the mortgage.
So many times I do a lot of speaking engagements and I educate thousands of people, and almost every time people seriously still get very confused between the difference in the HAMP and the HARP. And I tell them it's all the matter of the M versus the R. Remember, M is for modification, R is for refinance. I don't touch refinance any longer, I haven't in 12 years, but you are very active in this. And tell me, what would preclude someone from being able to get access to the HARP benefits?
Right. Well, what happens is this. The first thing is that if they are not paying their mortgage on time, meaning if they have more than one late payment on their mortgage in the last 12 months or any lates in the last 6 months, that's going to disqualify them from the HARP program. It's meant for the homeowner who has been responsible, who has been making the mortgage payments, who has income and assets that would justify a normal refinance, but just doesn't have the equity, either very little equity or no equity in the house. And the other thing would be if their loan is currently not a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac conventional loan. This is only for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, which is really the bulk of the conventional loans that are out there.
So does an FHA get eliminated as a possibility? If someone has an FHA loan, does that mean they're necessarily not able to do it? What is the difference?
Well, good question. FHA has its own streamlined refinance guidelines, and on certain cases, you are able to refinance without any equity on an FHA loan. It has differences compared to the conventional, but just because you have an FHA loan that you may be underwater does not mean you can't refinance and take advantage of the lower interest rates.
So tell me, how does someone know if they're Fannie or Freddie or not?
Okay.
How does someone know that?
Right. The good thing now is that when somebody speaks to a loan officer, the loan officer now can run the credit report, and what's great is a lot of the loans now are being reported right on the credit report that it's a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. If it's not on there, and what we do to make sure is there's a lookup tool that Fannie Mae has to see that Fannie Mae is the servicer or Freddie Mac is the servicer of the loan. And once we have that, we then take it to the next step, because just because they're the servicer doesn't mean you're automatically going to get the HARP loan. What happens is we run the file through the automated underwriting system that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have. That's going to give us in the findings whether it is eligible for that program. And that's really the only way to do that.
And I always tell someone, once you have more than one mortgage late, you no longer qualify to refinance, regardless of if they have equity or not. And that's when they need to look at a modification, which is what I do.
Right.
But if someone is trying to be proactive and they're not yet in danger of being late, but they don't have the equity required to do a normal refinance to bring their mortgage payments down to more going rate, that's when they see you. Is that correct?
Correct, right.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What is the difference? Let's say somebody's mortgage is with any of the large lenders, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, whoever it is. Does that mean they still need to do the lookup for whether it's Fannie or Freddie backed?
Yes, just because a loan is serviced by a bank or any kind of a mortgage servicer that normally does conventional loans does not mean that that's a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan. That could be a conventional mortgage, but it could have been a portfolio product through the bank. You know, a lot of the adjustable rates that were written in the mid 2000s or so were portfolio loans. They were not sold to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. In that case, those are going to be the instances where people are not going to be able to take advantage of the HARP program. But it is very easy to find that information fairly quickly.
So let's say someone does come to you. They find out, yes, they're qualified because they're backed by Fannie or Freddie. Here's my next question. How far underwater, or that they're upside down on the mortgage? What does that mean? I understand that it's their debt on their mortgage exceeds their value. What is the cap on that? How far underwater can they be where you could still help them?
The big advantage now, because this is really what we're offering now through the HARP programs, is really round 2 of the HARPs. The original HARP had a lot of problems where a lot of the homeowners couldn't qualify for it. And the second version fixed that. And one of the advantages is that there's really no limit as far as how far you're underwater. There's no more loans without right.
Oh, however, I thought there was a maximum.
Nope. The only difference now is that if somebody is refinancing in which they're at least 25% underwater, you're limited to only refinancing to a fixed rate mortgage, not an adjustable rate mortgage.
Well, most people want a fixed rate anyway, right?
But there are some people that may be looking for short term, maybe they're looking to sell their house in 5-6 years, maybe want to take advantage of an ARM, but that's rare. It's usually people go into a fixed rate.
Well, the last I knew, people could access mortgages at even rates in the mid to upper 3s into low 4s. So does the interest rate have any impact, or vice versa? Does it being a HARP mortgage have an impact of what interest rate someone has access to?
Right. The HARP loans are priced very similar to a refinance that somebody would normally do with equity. There is a slight adjustment, usually not more than about an eighth or so. And
that's it? Just an eighth?
Right. It's really not bad.
That's really good.
And that's also an improvement with the second version. The original version had about a 3/8 difference in the rate. It's on there. If it's relatively on the higher side, that might be. If there's a very limited amount of liquid assets, that could be. It could be when the automated underwriting does the property search, when you input the property address, it could be something that's on there. And again, it could be something where a lender just says to offset their risk, they may require appraisals on it, regardless of what the findings are. But even without an appraisal, or with an appraisal, you could still be underwater and get the loan done.
What is the largest amount underwater you have actually seen someone get approved for?
Oh, it was about 65%.
65%? What
yeah.
kind of a dollar amount do you think you've seen as the largest amount? I mean, I got a call this morning from a family who has about $100,000, maybe $110,000 that they're underwater. Is that someone that you'd be able to help if they were on time? Because unfortunately, this family is about 5 months in arrears. But if they were on time, would that be a candidate for you?
Yes, the dollar amount has no bearing on it. There's no limit. That's the beauty. Now, there are a little bit more restrictions when it comes to an investment property. It's a more liberal program when it comes to primary residences, but you can use this for second homes or investment properties.
When you say investment property, can you define that? I do have a lot of investors who watch our show. Our next guest is an investor, so I'd love to hear about investment properties. What is the restrictions there?
Well, basically, an investment property, it's going to be a 1 to 4 family or a condo in which obviously it's not their primary residence. They're getting rental income that's on there. Okay, so what's going to happen is that because investment properties in general, even on a purchase or a regular refinance, are more restrictive in terms of credit scores, the reserves requirements for assets, for monthly principal and interest and tax reserves.
So wait, if you allow me to backtrack.
Go ahead.
You had said that rental properties are treated differently in regards to the guidelines. So let me ask you this a different way. Single family homes are going to be treated differently as far as requirements go for investment properties, right?
Correct.
So the investment property guidelines are classified where you're saying it's the 1 to 4 family. What are those restrictions? And are they more finite? Are they more stringent with those?
Right. What happens is this, a number of lenders choose me not to go above 105% loan to value on an investment property.
Oh, okay,
It's
so
more-
they can only go 5%.
Right.
Explain to me, please, what does that mean, 105%?
Okay, it means that if the current mortgage is more than 5% above what the balance of, the value of the house is more than 5% above, or let me say, 5% below than what the value of the house is. Do you feel?
Wait,
so let me make it simple. Let me. If you owe $100,000 on the mortgage, okay, and the value of the house is at $95,000,
Right.
all right. What happens is you're now $5,000 in the rears or underwater. That's going to be fine as far as an investment property.
What about total loan amounts? There's something called conforming loan amounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the larger loan amounts, and then you have jumbo, right? So the jumbo loan amounts. Are jumbo loan amounts in that category that can be approved? Since you said that there's obviously the dollar amounts, there's no limit, but as far as the total outstanding of how much you're underwater. But how about the total loan amount? Can this apply to jumbo as well as conforming
Here's what
loan
happens.
amounts?
The loans have to be within Fannie Mae's limits, all right? Fannie Mae will go up to a maximum of $625,000.
In New Jersey.
In
This
New
is
Jersey,
different
right.
for states.
It's different, yeah. Some states are going to be
States vary.
different. New Jersey's considered a high-cost state, right? So the program is available for both conforming, which are loan amounts under $417,000, and for what they call the agency jumbo, which is the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac jumbo, which goes up to $625,000. So it doesn't really necessarily matter what you're underwater by. It's just that the maximum loan that they'll refinance is
Right, maximum dollar amount.
dollar
total
amount, total dollar.
Total loan amount.
Right. Exactly.
Excellent. So can you tell me just really quick, as we'd like to wrap it up, give me just one most recent example of a family you've helped with the HARP program.
Yeah, the typical family I have, and just one I have in mind, is that I did a loan with, it was just a young family, 3 kids over in Wayne, and they wanted to take advantage of the lower interest rates. They basically were paying a rate when rates were at the highest. They were paying about 5 1/8 on their 30-year fixed rate. But they're struggling with kids going to school and property taxes going up. But they noticed rates were coming down into the low 4s. They wanted to in the high 3s, low 4s. They wanted to take advantage of that.
Do you recall what this family ended up getting as a loan amount? As an interest rate,
Right.
rather?
Yeah, it was 3 3/4.
Wow,
As
3
an
3/4.
interest rate. They were very happy. Saved almost $300 a month on their monthly payment.
That's a utility bill for free.
Yeah, exactly.
You saved them a brand new utility bill on average.
Right. Now, the main thing to keep in mind is that the HARP program, as it stands now, is going to end on December 31st unless it's extended. Okay?
Do you foresee it being extended? It
It's
depends on which
possible.
administration takes office?
Yeah, it's hard to really say. It's already been extended to where it is now, but anybody considering the HARP, just getting some information, should definitely look at it sooner rather than later.
And the last question would be, how long is the refinance process nowadays with you and your company?
Generally within 30 days, from application to closing, within 30 days. All right, there's usually things are, first of all, what's great about the HARP loan, because there's no appraisal and because it's very limited documentation on the loan, it gets run through the processing and underwriting system very quickly. I've had some that closed in about 21, 22 days on there.
That's amazing. In only 3 weeks,
Yeah.
they could bring their interest rate down substantially if they hadn't
Yep.
taken advantage of this because they didn't previously qualify more traditionally.
Right.
That's a great job. So thank you for being one of New Jersey's heroes and helping people and homeowners.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, Vivian.
Do you need to blow the whistle on unsafe conditions at work? You may be protected by New Jersey law and by the federal agency called OSHA. For information, go to njwec.org or osha.gov. This message brought to you by the New Jersey Work Environment Council.
Hi, welcome back to Stop My Crisis with Vivian Gaspar, and I am your host, Vivian Gaspar, and I have with me here Ron Rossnick. He is a real estate investor for over 10 years and a New Jersey licensed real estate agent. Thank you, Ron, for coming on my show. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Vivian.
And I'm looking to find out and pick your brain today about real estate investing in today's market. What are the pitfalls and how a new investor can avoid them?
That's a huge question. I would say, if we pare it down for this conversation, the few qualities that I would say anybody should go into in investing is kind of have curiosity and be open-minded. Rather than get specific and checking the cap rate analysis, do the math, check records and do your title search. I mean, all that stuff has to be done. And with a real estate professional, they'll help you get through it. But as a person that's an investor, you have to have your own tenacious mindset.
Is this market right now that we're in currently, as both a realtor as an investor, is this a good market for first-time investors, in your opinion?
I think it's a pretty great market for first-time investors. We're on a little upcycle, and if you pick the right location and you pick the right property and you are in it for a long term, you'll come out ahead. So as an investor, things happen and you have to be dynamic. You have to be ready to be a problem solver or have people ready to help you with problem solving.
Did you have mentors or someone else that you can rely on to give you information that was helpful to you?
You know, when I first started in real estate, I bought my first house when I was 26 years old.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's great by anyone's standards.
And I was completely nervous, completely green, but I just wanted the American dream. I wanted to get the house with the white picket fence and, you know, a dog and all that kind of stuff. And growing up in New York City and getting a job in New Jersey afforded me the opportunity to finally dig in and get that. And I'd say I found a few mentors that helped me get more comfortable. Sonny Block was one of my mentors, which people don't even know who he is anymore. But I'd say find people around you that are like-minded and that can help guide you through the process. Even a seasoned investor needs other people around him or her to kind of figure some things out. It's hard to be the grandmaster expert of everything and watch your back and check every dot in your analysis for a property.
What is it you've seen as a real estate agent for investors? Is it a different angle and viewpoint that you've seen before you became an agent and you were an investor previously?
I'd say investors can be much more challenging than a traditional home seeker, someone that just wants to buy a single-family house for the first time. An investor wants a cash flow. And there's an adage in real estate: you can never have enough cash flow properties.
Right, of course.
So how much do they want a cash flow? What cap rate do they want? And all these other numbers and things. We can get into the nitty-gritty when we get down to business, but it's just what's going to be palatable for your level of risk.
Is that like a tolerance level that they're looking at, what they could live with?
Yeah, I would say so, because I meet investors that are ready to do the fixing-upping. They're ready to tear things apart and build it back up, and they're going to find great opportunities.
So is that the sweat equity that you hear so much about?
If they do it themselves, it's sweat equity. If they are going to buy a two-family house or a three-family house or something like that, then they're going to cash flow with tenants. And depending on their loan, they can get a loan like a 2 or 3K loan with money to fix it up.
So is there something that you really should get? If your sisters could go into real estate investing for the first time, what's the first thing you would say is a good first step?
I'd say listen to a lot of podcasts while you're driving.
The education.
Yeah, I'd say education
is key.
I mean, the wealthiest people on the planet, the one thing that they do above the poorest people on the planet is that they learn. They get an education, whether it's higher ed in college or just be open-minded. Have your ear ready to listen and learn and look for opportunities.
And there are lots of free ways to get education, right? I mean, you have books on tape from the library, you have free seminars. I mean, did you do any of these types of things to help you get started?
I've done seminars, but I think also part of the seminars that I think have helped me are just building up my confidence to know that I can do it. It's not just real estate seminars that I think someone should learn. It's people management seminars too. It's knowing how to talk to people and kind of work deals, but also have a team. I mean, as a real estate agent, when I help a client, I'm on their team. and I work with them to create the best outcome for their own
Well, there's
success.
so many real estate agents. How do you think you set yourself apart? I know this is a very cliche question. I get that. But when there's so many realtors and real estate agents in New Jersey and somebody wants to get started, isn't it a great asset to work with a real estate agent who used to be an investor or still is themselves? And if it comes to helping another investor, you see their perspective, right?
I'd say humbly so. It's good to have someone that is like-minded. In other words, you want to pick a real estate professional that understands your goals, that kind of can even fit with your vibe, that can speak the language that you can understand. Not someone that's going to push you into sale, not someone that's going to say, this is great, don't worry. Honestly, those words, don't worry,
that makes you worry.
That's when I start worrying.
That's a big red flag for
Yeah.
worry now.
Yeah, it's just, or just make sure you're paying attention. Pay attention. If a seller gives you their numbers and they tell you, here's the taxes, here's the rent roll, do your diligence. Get some backup, get documents, to back it up.
What's the biggest red flag that you could tell someone they might need to look out for?
Well, I'd say short sales could be more of a challenge. REOs are more of a challenge. That's a bank-owned property after
Right.
a foreclosure. Sometimes there's damage to the property. Sometimes there's things that you don't expect. It's like when you buy a used car, you got to have a little cushion fund. I'd say have some money to do some emergency repairs.
Now, everybody understands that someone who is short selling their house may not have money or don't want to fix it up because obviously they're having a hard time. But explain for a minute, what is it that someone needs to look out for when it comes to an REO? And what is exactly an REO? Is that real estate owned? I mean, what is
that's
that?
what the acronym is, but
what does that
I don't
mean?
think it's a poor acronym. I mean, it's just simply that the bank who loans money to a home buyer winds up not getting paid by the homeowner, and they're in default, and they go into what's called a pre-foreclosure. And if the homeowners are not smart enough to short sell the property, then the bank will go to court. And in New Jersey, it will take generally from a year to 5 years. Now it's going faster.
Oh, yes. It's much faster now.
But once the bank does a sheriff's sale, if they don't sell it to a third party, the bank will pay a token amount of money and then get the deed to the property. Now it's an REO. That's a bank-owned property. Banks don't always immediately sell this property. Sometimes they sit on it for their own illogical or logical reasons.
There might be some very big pitfalls for a potential home buyer or investor to look at. Do you see a lot of commercial properties that are REOs also?
No, not it's.
So it's more the residential
Yeah,
that
I would
typically.
say residential.
Do you have a lot of people come to you to be an investor that you gear towards commercial or mixed use properties, or are they strictly 2 to 4 family or 1 to 3 family houses?
I mean, apartment buildings are really a great investment to get a higher cap rate and have less time-consuming management. If you get an apartment building and you can afford a manager in there, then that's easier for you to run.
Do you work with management companies to help out your clients if once they buy the property?
I could recommend managers. It depends. Again, that's very specific to the nature of that person that's buying or company that's buying.
So to recap, what would be the top 3, quickly now, pitfalls that someone should look out for? Help me out. List them for me.
Pitfalls, I'd say to give you top 3 would be honestly a disservice because there are way more things
Give me
to
the
consider.
number one thing someone should watch out for.
I mean, if you're doing an investment property and you're pure investment, I mean, you do your cap rate analysis, make sure your numbers are intact. But the other thing that's important is it your style? If you're going to manage that property yourself, I'd say be less than 30 minutes away from it.
Oh, that's good information.
If you're further away, it's a headache when there are problems and you have to break away from your family in the middle of the night to handle it, or you got to call somebody. That distance sometimes makes it more challenging unless you've got something in place to have people in place to take care of it.
Here's my other question. A lot of people have seen that it's a good idea in their perspective to maybe have that 2 to 4 family unit building because they should watch out for vacancies. I mean, if you only have a 2-family house, 1 vacancy equals half the amount of the money not coming in. But if it's a risk management situation, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, risk management, it's nice to have a 20-unit apartment building, but many people don't have millions of dollars to put down. people can leverage their own homes and get refinance and take money out of their home to put a down payment on a commercial property. And I think that's a good idea if their strategy and their everything is in place to do that.
How about taxes? Is that ever a big loophole for someone to watch out for if they're looking at several properties in one area? Is there anything that they should be keen to be careful to watch for in regards to property taxes?
I've seen investors and individuals come in and see the taxes on one particular property, say, wow, that's so low, what a great deal. This makes more sense. It's going to be less costly to run this property. And you got to tread lightly on that thought process, because often enough, if there's one property with low taxes that's lower than the property is worth, most probably in a few years the town will reassess it based on the sale price or based on a whole reeval by the town that has to do this from time to time. So you're going to get a tax hike. In my building that I bought in 2007, kind of at the 2008 in the height of the market crash time, my taxes were $18,000 on this building. In 2011, they went up 90% to $34,000.
Wow, that must have completely killed the profits for this building.
Yeah, I really was very disappointed, and I did a tax appeal, but years will go by sometimes for that. And it's like having us just to pay the difference in the taxes. One of my units had to pay that difference. It's like having a squatter in my building, the township sitting in my building.
What is a squatter? For the people out there who don't know, explain to us what a squatter is.
Squatter is someone that's sitting in your unit, in your apartment, that's not paying and
There's nothing you can do to you can't kick them out?
I can't kick the township out when they raise my taxes, but you can definitely kick a tenant out. And depending if you have an LLC or an individual, it's a process with the court. And I would say do it if you need to.
And so you had mentioned before the term of cap rate analysis. Can you just explain that a little bit in some layperson's terms? Help me understand what that is a little. Help my viewers understand better.
I mean, basically, in simple terminology, without getting overly technical, it's total up all your expenses, your taxes, your water, your sewer, your insurance, your maintenance costs, and all the other ancillary costs, snow removal, grass cutting. Those are your expenses, and then calculate how much income you have, your rent roll and other income if you rent a parking spot or other things that go on. And your cap rate analysis is based on your profitability.
So is that like your net profit?
Yeah, and I would say, in this market, depending on the town you're in, if you want to go to a town like Newark, you can get higher cap rates. If you want to go to a town like Montclair, you'll get lower cap rates because there's less risk, it's easier to rent. So there's risk versus reward. You want a cap rate of 0%, you could buy properties in Manhattan and not make any money, but you just possess the properties. In New Jersey, you can get cap rates of 6, 7, 8% if you find value in a property that other people don't see, which is what we really look for different kinds of investors. Finding something that no one else sees, an angle, you can really increase that cap rate. My building, for example, that I had 9 feet of space between the second and third floor that potentially could be utilized to make a loft space. So there's things around that you could figure out, think of.
There's little secrets that you have that it's all in your eye. It's like being a good photographer. Right. If you see an angle that no one else does, it makes something more appealing and profitable in the end. And when you're an investor, is that
right? And
synopsis?
And I have investors that look for garden apartment rental complexes that were built in the 70s and 80s because they don't want the new ones because there's no extra little value that they can figure out, like doing renovations on the apartment where they can raise the rent. So
you have really great tips. First investor exclusively for 10 years. Now you're helping the other investor as a real estate professional.
Right.
Fantastic. So now you can help everyone else. And where is your territory in New Jersey that you can help people?
I'm based out of Montclair, New Jersey. And, basically northern New Jersey is where my stomping ground is. Essex County, Passaic County, Hudson County, and Bergen County.
We're here in right now we serve Middlesex County here in Princeton, of course, Mercer County. And so that's not a bad, maybe half hour away from here, this area, correct?
If there's a client that wants to work with me, but they're really too far for me to really give them my best, I have professionals, colleagues all around the state that I can refer them to.
Excellent. So you're a wonderful resource for anyone if they can't work with you directly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing your information
Thank you so
with
much,
my
Vivian.
clients.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you, my viewers.